And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a Bookish Moment. I'm Sarah Burr.
I am J.C. Kenney, and Sarah, I am ready to take a trip in the Wayback Machine and bring some of those Catholic kid memories back to life because we have a super special guest today, and I can't wait to get bookish with her. So, Sarah, let's get bookish.
Yes, and I don't know if we're going that way back in the
Yeah,
machine,
I
but
know
we
that.
are in for a super treat, you guys. For our viewers joining us today, we have the wonderful, the ever so talented Marianne Leone joining us. We are super excited to talk about her first fictionalized novel,
Yeah.
Christina the Astonishing. And Marianne, by any chance, do you have the book to hold up really quickly? Because folks just need to see the cover. I love this cover so much. It sets the tone of this book
Yes.
so well. We're going to have so much fun talking about this because it is an insight into a young woman's coming of age story. We start when she is around 13 years old and follow her on a rather spectacular journey. And it is going to be such fun to talk about. But before we dive too much into our conversation, I'm wondering, Marianne, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about your background, your life, and what brought you to writing Christina's story.
I actually have an author statement that I'm happy to read for you that I wrote. It's Christina the Astonishing and I have a lot in common. I am a first generation daughter of Italian immigrants, and I attended a parochial school from kindergarten until my senior year of high school. And
Been there.
I also grew up in a working class community 7 miles outside of Boston. Like Christina, I pursued acting. Um, as a career and eventually landed a recurring role on The Sopranos after putting in the required years of humiliation and starvation in New York City. It may have been my time on that series that made me think about coming up in a character-rich environment with a tiny enclave of people from the same mountain village in Italy and a wildly dramatic and inadvertently hilarious family. I wanted to write about growing up in that juicy realm and, of course, about being desperate to escape it. I love writing this coming of age, even reliving the days of being a parochial school prisoner overseen by the Little Sisters of Sadism made me quiver at times with retro anxiety. Acting and writing spring from the same source, which is all about telling the truth. Writing gives you the chance to re-experience that first shuddery kiss, even when you are way past ingenue as an actor. And in that same way, writing also gives you the thrill of time traveling as another person. So I don't try to obsess over the fact that I have been cast 5 times as a nun. I have no idea what that is. But anyway, that's my statement on writing this stuff.
I
So
think the voice that you use, your storytelling voice, I think is just the perfect snapshot of what readers are in for a treat of when we get to Christina's story, because it is just so vivid and you feel like one of the things that I found so remarkable about this book is that how we follow her development both as a thinker, and the way that she encounters the world, the way that she speaks to us as the reader, but just also her changing world perspective and how she goes from the start of her journey of wanting to become a saint, and by the end, she's maybe gone off a little of the rails of where she started.
yeah.
So as we to kind of set the stage for our conversation today, I'm hoping that you can tell us a little bit about why you decided to write this book, because you have written a lot of beautiful, moving nonfiction, and this is a very comedic delivery of very insightful and often dramatic topics. The style in which you write it, I believe, you have a quote that says, this is like Dave Sedaris. And I don't, that's like the highest compliment that I feel that you can
Right.
get, when writing with humor. So what was this journey like of putting Christina's story to paper?
Well, it's had many iterations. What's interesting is you may notice the amount of dialogue in this book is more than usual. And I have put this to good use because my husband is, whenever he's between acting jobs, my husband is actor Chris Cooper. I dragooned him into reading the men's parts with me on my readings. And we just had a ball because we never get cast together. So, but this started out as a screenplay many years ago.
Oh,
Oh,
I wrote
wow.
wow.
it, I wrote it many years ago and it was optioned. And then it sat there. And I thought, I'm novelizing this. This is ridiculous. So I novelize it just in time for publishing to get into their next gig, which is YA, young adult. It's not YA. It's not YA. So it
Mhm.
languished in the gulag, the YA gulag for a bit longer. And so that's why you may notice some of the changes and, I started by making her older, and then even, they were still like, but isn't it YA? No, it wasn't. So finally, it moved to Akashic Publishing, and I just love these publishers. They're really great. So,
Well, I tell you, I tip my hat to them and thank both them and you for bringing, a fantastic, funny story. I am one of those evil Irish Catholic families,
hmm.
and that we did. Let's see, yeah, we did our part. My family did our part of pumping the steady supply of students into school.
Oh
And I just
yes.
when I read that, I practically fell out of my chair. I'm the youngest of eight. I
Oh
have
my
five
God.
older sisters, and so it's like, oh my God, talk about feeling both seen and targeted in one single sentence was just absolute
Well,
timeless.
don't feel targeted because I only dated Irish boys because they were forbidden. You know,
Okay.
um, my mother was like completely like, you don't want them. Don't go. And in fact, my husband, who has not a drop of Irish blood, but because he's like a white boy from the Midwest, my mother was immediately like, "You like a drink, Chris? Maybe you like a drink." No. It's like- it was hilarious. So, but I loved the Irish boys because they were like semaphores. They blushed if they were
Oh yeah.
interested. So they gave you signals. So,
See, folks, what you're getting is you're getting the total tone of the book right now, and so much of it I want to ask, is um, as yes, Christina is Catholic, growing up Catholic, and there's clearly lots of religion, talking about the nuns, all the Catholic stuff, but it really goes beyond that. You don't
yeah,
have to be a member of the church to
yeah.
appreciate the story at all. Could you talk a little bit about kind of that, I think like Sarah said, it's there's some definite universal themes growing up in the 60s. That's a turbulent time. And so can you talk a little bit about Christina and what you wanted to, talk about through her character?
I wanted to talk about the coming out, I felt like the only books we read in my school were about leprosy or Lives of the Saints. And because I was a voracious reader, I think it saved me and it led me, it's what really led me forward was being a reader. Once I discovered that I could get on the trolley to Harvard Square and find bookstores after checking out the banned books in the Pilot, which was the Catholic newspaper every week, and banned films later, uh, my world expanded, and I wanted to give that to Christina as her expansion, as her way to expand her life, and that is what happened in my own life. It was learning about civil rights through folk music and a lot of other it's weird. It wasn't that far out in the early 60s from World War II. And what
Mhm.
happened, I think, is men came back from World War II and they're like, okay, let's just go back to everything. Women get out of the workforce, go, you know, really, women wore ultra female stuff. If you remember in the 50s, I mean, it was amazing. The genderized roles were so specific. And, I came up in a time when that was exploding for the first time. Now tradwives are the thing, but so it was really an interesting time. And and also being part of an immigrant family. That was I remember coming up, feeling like I just wanted to be American. I did not want to be thought of as the other. But I had a mother who spoke with an accent, and I was constantly aware that people might not think I was really an American. So I put that into the book because that must be an interesting thing that maybe I mean, that might be still happening today with immigrant families, you know? Certainly when I read Gary Steingart, it was the same with him, you know?
Mhm.
So I don't think I
Well,
was alone in that.
no, and I think there's a universal feeling of, feeling like an outsider, no matter who you
Right.
are and what your background is like, you're always missing something or you're always on the outs from like what you're supposed to be doing. And I
It's
think
true.
part of Christina's story that I found so relatable is that she was just, she had her goals and no matter what life was throwing at her, she was going to find a way to achieve what she wanted to achieve. And to JC's point about, you don't have to grow up in a Catholic family to find absolute joy from this book. I grew up in a Episcopalian family, and the just the dynamic, I think, of how the generations deal with one another. And one of my favorite lines is pretty early on in the book where Christina she says that she's an aristocrat, and her family is like a bunch of plebeians that are just like farting at the dinner table or growling at the dinner table. It was just like her internal dialogue with herself was so endearing and so fun. But she also has a really, really like really fiery relationship with her mom. And I'm wondering if
Yeah.
you could share a little bit about Rita and her views about a Catholic family and her views on the system. Like there was just like such an interesting dynamic going on between mother and daughter. So I'm wondering if you can kind of
Rita is the
expand
only
upon that.
character that I did not change from life. I wrote a memoir about my mother called Ma Speaks Up because she was such a character, really, and we were at war with each other the entire time I was growing up. Although all my friends adored her because she was so feisty and outgoing, and she was widowed at 43 with three
Ah,
kids. English as a second language and no main profession outside of being a fantastic cook. So she became a cook in a mob restaurant. Then she became a bookie, um, illegally. And she was amazing. She was just an amazing woman. But, you know, I wasn't there for she didn't like that I read all the time, and she hated the folk music I played all the time. I mean, Joan Baez and Dylan drove her insane. It was like she was hearing someone caterwauling from the other room. So, and what's really funny is that my sister, who still lives in the house that I grew up in, found, she was throwing out a bureau because my mother threw everything out. I kept diaries from early on, they're all gone. But she finds this little journal I had kept when I was 10 years old, trapped in the bureau. And she says, "You were such a happy child. What happened?" And I said, "No, no, no. I'm writing that in the persona of an American child." So she said, basically, it looks like it's written by someone who lives in a sod hut and is wearing gingham, and it's, I swore like a sailor, even at 10, so it wasn't me, but it was the me I want it to be. So
Oh my goodness.
that may be where the writing started. I
Hmm.
always wrote. Even when I was an actor, when I was starting out as an actor, I got together with three other friends who were like, "We're never going to get an agent by doing Macbeth on Avenue D. We need to form a comedy group." We all get agents because they'd rather come and have a drink, and laugh. And so I've been writing comedy for a long time, basically, you know. So
so I guess that kind of brings up a perfect question. Then I don't know if it's a perfect question. It's a perfect time for a new question. Um, Sorry, I tend to ramble. Sarah will confirm that. Can you talk about comedy writing? You've written memoir. Now you're writing, a not a YA coming of age novel. Um, are there intersections between the three different, because they're very different genres or very different writing types? Are there
However,
commonalities you found, or
there
is
are
there?
commonalities in that even my first book, which is, I mean, we lost our child at age 17. It was the most devastating thing that can happen to a couple. And I really appreciated the fact that I got this blurb from Dennis Leary, who is a stand-up comedian and also an actor, as you know, who said, this book made me laugh and then cry and then laugh again until I was crying. And I really appreciated that because I thought, people are going to be afraid to pick up a book about death and disability and all the other. And as it turned out, I couldn't keep comedy even out of that book. And I see it as a tribute to my son, who was always the kid who got the joke at the table first. So, you know, um, I even in his book, I think it was right to have, comedic moments in that. So yeah, it's a thread through all of my books. Yeah.
And we
It's
were talking before we went live about like the need for laughter and how much it just like cleanses the soul and kind of resets everything when you have to tune out what's going on. And I think that that's such a powerful thing to bring not only into Christina's story and showing the struggles of a family who's immigrated into America, how they're trying to find their place in society, but to have those moments in your grief. And I just think that that's so beautiful that you're able to share that with people because I think a lot of folks, they desperately need that and they may not realize it. So that's a
Laughter is
long way to
also,
say
it's a
thank you.
weapon. Laughter
Yeah.
is a weapon. Laughter
Yes.
is a weapon against bullies, you know? Um, it's something that we can use right now. We're seeing it happen with Jimmy Kimmel and people like that. It's a
Hmm.
weapon in
Yes.
addition to
Agreed.
everything else. It's very powerful humor. And I think that's why they go after the comedians first, right? I don't
Yeah.
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
And
true.
and
authoritarians, you
and
know.
those bringing that light into the world because we try here to no matter what kind of day that we're having, we're trying to lift each other up and to lift our
Right,
audience members up. And speaking of our
right.
audience members, I do want to give a shout out to the folks who have joined us in and chiming in the chat. We have David saying hello from New Hampshire. We have Christina saying hi, everyone from chilly Alberta. Ooh, I bet it is cold
Mm.
there.
Ooh.
And Christina, this is a comment that she made, Marianne, when you were talking about reading aloud with your husband, that how fun that would have been to have it read out loud, and especially to hear the dialogue done by someone who I would imagine is very good at doing accents and being able to when I was reading, thinking about the different accents at play, because you had the in the greater Boston area, there's a lot going on, and even the Boston accent kind of differs between folks
Oh
who have
my
been there
God, that's such
for
a hard accent. But
it
I
is.
think most actors fear it greatly because
Yes.
it's really hard to get that right, you know?
I
And
I
in fact, when I got The Sopranos, I was like nervous because there were similarities in the Jersey accent, the open end, like Christopher, but
mhm.
then
Mm.
if they say talk or, the A's are different, the O's are, it's like, but Chris now has it down, of course, even though he's a Midwestern boy, he's been living here for a long time. But I want to tell your audience that if they want to see a reading, actually, there's one we did before this ever became a novel, and I was calling it collected short stories at the time. And it's on my website under videos that we did at this venue here in Boston that is a wonderful venue called Earful, where they have writers reading from their work, music, writers reading from their work, music. And it
Oh,
was at this great dive bar in Somerville, or Somerville, as we'd say. Um, and Chris and I did a reading. It's at www.marianneleonecooper.com. There was another Marianne Leone who spelled her name like mine.
oh.
Go figure.
Yeah, you gotta nail down those domains
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
soon as you can. I have so many regrets that like not going in and going and just like grabbing every like combo that I could think of because you'd be surprised like
yes,
what random people are also picking up or
right,
people in China like
right,
Yeah.
right.
They're getting all the domains.
Right.
But real quickly, we also have Farmhouse Reader chiming in with a happy Tuesday, and DHB saying good afternoon. Folks, our time, I said that this time was going to fly by so quickly. We only have 10 minutes left. So if you have any questions for Marianne, please make sure that you pop them into the chat. But as we kind of continue, I would love to know so this is a little segue, but when I was in high school, I was in a play or a musical called Nonsense, which was about Catholic nuns.
Right.
They were like they were on a mission for a leper colony, and somebody died eating
That makes
vichyssoise
sense,
soup.
leper colony.
Yeah, and so like all of these references that they're in your story, those connections, and like just the way that I was able to, identify so much with the experiences that Christina was having, but also like her family dynamic. I'm curious, like what part of this story maybe brought you the most joy, and on the flip side, what was the biggest challenge in putting together her story?
Well, it was, I mean, it was a way to connect everything and have a
Hmm.
through line was the hardest because, in memoir, you don't necessarily have to do that. It's like it follows along a lifeline and it's all over the place. So it was interesting. I think the strongest thing was Christina and her family and coming to terms with that. And I think you see that towards the end in Transfiguration, some of those chapters where she does finally start to have a glimmer of understanding about her mother and a little bit of compassion
Mm.
for um, for her and understanding because now she's in Boston by herself going to college and on her own and she maybe has a glimmering of what that might have been like to come here at 16 to escape an arranged marriage and you know and fascism ironically and
Well, and so that's one of the things that I think is so much fun and interesting and also insightful about the story is the generational interaction.
yeah.
Because thinking set in the 60s, I think of my parents. There was so much of the that was still very much the time where we didn't talk about things,
Oh,
or
well,
we
the
didn't
Irish
show our
don't
we
talk
didn't
about things.
yeah, we didn't show our emotions. At least the
Yeah,
Irish Catholics weren't supposed to show their emotions.
not di
Um,
very different on my end.
yeah.
Everybody showed
Um,
their emotions.
and so, can you talk a little bit about that? That generational interplay, because we haven't had much of a chance at all to talk about Christina's dad, the go-between.
Right, right. The one who was more Americanized than the mother
Yeah,
because he
yeah.
came there earlier. So he doesn't have an accent. He's more like an American. So it's almost like he kind of understands, also, Christina in the earlier section, she's like all in on because
Yes.
she's terrified of going to hell. And her parents don't go to church because, I mean, I'm sure your parents did because the Irish parents, they did. They even drove the nuns around to their doctor appointments and stuff. My mother never said the word nun without saying the fucking nun's always looking for money. So I felt like she's going to burn in hell, and I am not going to burn in hell. So there was that struggle going on too, of they're not really they're not really observant Catholics. And I've
Hmm.
thought about that a lot, because it's kind of true. I mean, the Italians, they actually have a pasta called strozza preti, priest strangler. I mean, how do you have a pasta called priest strangler? And they have an idiom, mangia preti, for anti-cleric, priest eater.
Oh,
You know,
jeez.
I mean, the Irish don't have that going on.
No, no,
And I
So,
think the way that you illustrate, not only you illustrate it through their discussions, but just their actions as well. Like the fact that like you have Meatless Friday, but
yeah,
then Rita
the
makes
mother doesn't
a
really believe in
BLT.
it.
yeah.
Yes, and we're talking about this like deliciously crispy bacon that I was like, oh my gosh, like the food that's talked about in this book alone, I'm like, oh, I love food. but it was just so funny that, poor Christina is eating this bacon and then she's like, oh my gosh, like I can't go to church because I've sinned. And her mom is just like,
I'll take the sin.
like, yeah, like
I
I'll
take
take
the
the sin.
sin.
God wants you to eat. And it was just such I don't know. It was just such a delightful way to kind of get inside the mind of different, of how people interpret religion and how people, have their relationships with a higher being and what is
Right.
okay for them and all of this good stuff. I mean, it was so delightful. And I have to ask, that, with this being your first, fiction novel, are you planning to do more fiction writing, or do you foresee yourself kind of
Yes,
moving
I
in
think I'm going to
between?
novelize another script of mine that was optioned,
Oh,
and
nice.
sitting there, and I'm thinking I should. My choice is to novelize that, which is a time travel from the 80s to the 40s, big band
Ooh.
era,
Ooh,
and
fun.
takes place on the South Shore here. And there's that, but there's also I have been part of a group of women who, both in Italian and in English, not me in Italian because I'm not that great at it, write 100-word pieces once a week. So I've been doing this for 5 years. So I have a lot of 100-word pieces. And I was looking at them thinking, I think this might be a book. And people are so fractured at this point. That's why flash fiction is so popular at this
Hmm.
point. I
Yeah.
thought, well, the thing that makes this work is putting it together into quadrants and groups. And I thought, oh yeah. So I have like this one thing that I started putting together that is penises I have known and not necessarily loved, because it's about all the men who have exposed themselves to me.
Oh
There have
my
been quite a
gosh.
few. Um, and so I thought, this also could be a book. So it may be one or the other. I'm not sure which. Or
And that's another good example of using humor to kind of work through trauma
yeah,
and
absolutely.
dealing with and how therapeutic it can be and how just like cathartic
I'm
that.
telling you, in Ma Speaks Up, I wrote about what happened when our mother died. She's waked at the typical Italian funeral home, flowers everywhere, and she's done up, Tutankhamun, like anyway, my little niece runs in, she's 7 years old, plants a huge kiss on her. She runs ahead of everybody and she goes, Mom, she's like a popsicle. We lost it. I
Oh
thought my
my
mother was going to
goodness.
sit up in the coffin and laugh, is what I said. It was just, I felt like it was a gift from my mother, who
Hmm.
was really sly and funny. And I just love that juxtaposition. It's just crazy. So, yeah,
That that is a gift, I think,
it
that
is.
to be
And it was a
able
gift I
to.
was handed by my
Yeah.
niece, you know?
Oh,
Yeah. So, Marianne, Christina the Astonishing came out in September,
Hmm.
and it's available pretty much everywhere, correct?
Yes. But if you're
Okay.
going to send, I really like bookshop.org because
mhm.
Okay.
they donate money to independent bookstores. And I
Okay.
love independent bookstores.
There you go. So, folks, remember, and Small Business Saturday is Saturday, but go ahead and order it from bookshop.org today, and we'll give you credit for Saturday. Kind of like Christina's mom took the hit for eating the bacon. So there you go.
And also you can, again, see on marianneleone.com under videos, me and my husband reading an earlier version of one of these chapters.
Yes, that is going to be a must for
Yeah.
me. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to make sure that I have that link in our Substack that goes out after the
Cool.
show so that folks can be directed to it. Marianne, one thing that we do to kind of wind down our episodes here is it's kind of like a rapid fire round of what are you reading, what are you watching, what are you listening to, anything that's entertaining you these days. Doesn't have to be specific to any genre. If you just have recommendations for us, we love to hear them. We love to add things to our watch list, reading list, all of that good stuff.
Well, my husband won an Oscar, so we're linked into the Academy and we're watching a lot of those films right now.
Oh,
And
nice.
but I saw one that is on the Academy list, but it's also on Netflix called Train Dreams, and
Oh, yeah.
it's it was the most devastatingly accurate portrayal of being haunted by grief that I've ever seen. I thought it was magnificent. I also thought the film my husband did a very small cameo in History of Sound with uh, Josh O'Connor and oh my God, I'm blanking on it. Paul Mescal.
Oh
That was
yeah.
also a beautiful film by directed by Oliver Hermanus, who directed Living a couple of years ago with Bill Nye, and that
Mm.
was based on Kurosawa's Ikiru. Beautiful. And we also saw the Benedict Cumberbatch, Olivia Colman, The Roses, which is
Oh.
based on the War of the Roses. And
Hmm.
I don't know if it's for everyone, but it was, it was pretty evilly funny. For that.
I do love
And
something funny.
yes, and I haven't been able to read as much. I mean, I have books piled up because I've been doing readings, but I'm just starting to read my friend's collection of short stories, which of course my brain is, her name is Elizabeth Searle, Searle, and
Okay.
it's called The Drama Room, and I've started picking that up to read. I cannot tell you how many books
Hmm.
lined up to read because everybody I know wrote a book during lockdown, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So they're all here.
Yeah.
I know Tom Perrotta, who is a friend. He has a book coming out in April that looks fantastic called Ghost Town, and he's a wonderful writer.
Nice. That's a good problem to have,
Excellent.
is too many books to
Yeah.
read.
Yeah.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
Also, I
JC.
read scripts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's got to be such an interesting experience because you really are left to your imagination in a way of putting together the scene and
You know
having it
what?
all unfold before you.
My job in New York when I was a starving actor was a reader for MGM. So I was
Oh.
reading scripts and it taught me to write scripts.
Oh,
It's like
cool.
by page 10, you should do this. By page 30, it's got to be like
Hmm.
that. So, yeah. So
What
that
a
was a
That's
good
amazing.
learning
what a
experience for
classroom.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was fabulous. Really good. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that helped.
So,
Not
Sarah,
that
how
many.
about you?
I actually amazingly was able to do some reading last week because we were away on vacation on the beaches of Mexico, which was wonderful.
Ooh.
I read The Shell Collector by Nancy Nagel, which was a beautiful story about a woman who is widowed unexpectedly by her Marine husband and just kind of picking up the pieces of her life and how, like, all you need is like one person to walk into your life to change it. And it was really, really beautiful, incredibly moving. I also am almost finished with Dan Brown's new The Secret of Secrets, which is, I don't know how he finds these different scientific ideas that are out there and creates these amazing thrillers around them. But I love Robert Langdon, so I'm having a blast with that. And then watching wise, we just finished a limited series called The 24 Faces of Billy Milligan, and it was about the first successful person that was found not guilty by reason of insanity for multiple personality disorder.
Mm.
And he had at least, it was reported that he had 24 personalities within him. One was doing robberies, the other one was committing rapes. And like his main persona was like, I have no idea that these people exist within me. It was a
Oh,
wild
wow.
exploration of the mind. It's on Netflix. It was very good. And so if you're interested in that type of psychoanalysis mixed with true crime, highly recommend.
Yeah.
JC, what about you? Any new recommendations for us?
So I am listening to an audiobook of The Spy Who Came In from the Cold, John Le Carre.
Ooh.
I'm on a little bit of a spy kick right now because then I'm also watching for the first time The Americans. And
Oh.
so enjoying some of that kind of like, okay, it's like I'm trying to tell myself, espionage, world affairs, give me the escapism, and hopefully that's a little bit more real. But those are a couple, and so that's what I've got. And Marianne, real quick here, you mentioned your website where people can come and find you. Do you have any like readings or anything specific maybe coming up where people can come and maybe listen to you read some Christina or anything like that? Maybe.
The last one, I've been going like mad, let me tell you, is going to be next Tuesday at the Melrose Public Library, which is a beautiful library, and I've been there before. And so I'll be there on next Tuesday, December 2nd.
Okay.
Oh, I can't believe we're already in December. Oh, this time is flying. This has been absolutely delightful, Marianne. Thank you so much
you.
for sharing your time with us, for sharing your incredible humor with us. I don't think I've laughed so much during an episode in a very, very long time, and that was very much needed. So thank you so much. And to our wonderful viewers who joined us here live, we appreciate you tuning in. And for folks joining us after the fact, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them on YouTube. For our Substack subscribers, you can find us there and share your comments as well. We very much appreciate all of your support, and we look forward to being back after the Thanksgiving holiday here in the United States. We'll be back, I believe, next Tuesday. So that's also December 2nd. With a new show for you. So again, many thanks, Marianne, for being here, for sharing Christina's story with us, and to our wonderful viewers. We'll see you next time. And until then, stay bookish, everybody. Have a happy Thanksgiving.